Welcome into the channel. Let's talk some Texans. The Texans with a rough showing at NRG Stadium for their only home preseason appearance of the preseason. 28-3, the final score, but the first half with the first team is what we want to talk about. CJ Stroud's second preseason game. Did any of it look better? Did any of it look worse than the first preseason game? We'll dive into all of that. 2022 vibes to the Texans' run defense in the first half and really throughout the entirety of the game. We'll talk about that. I had a Camp Crush disappoint me in this preseason game. We'll answer your questions as well. I'm Cody Stoots. If you've never been to the channel before, appreciate you tuning in, talking a little Texans with us tonight or today or whenever you're watching. Of course, we're live right now, but if you're watching this after the fact, we appreciate you. I welcome your comments in the comment section as well. Of course, I'd like for you to hit that thumbs up button below the video. That helps the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and check out Houston Football, my website, where I do all of my writing. The link is in the description below, and the link to the 11 observations post-game for today's game is below. That's for paid subscribers to Houston Football. Appreciate everyone's comments. We'll get to the comments as we go along here about the second preseason game and CJ Stroud's second preseason game. Let's talk a little bit about what Stroud put together with this first team offense that he was out there with. The final stat line: 7 completions on 12 attempts for 60 yards, no touchdown, an 8.6 average, and a 71.5 rating. And we'll go to the totality of the performance, and then we'll dive into the minutia of the performance as well. In totality, Stroud said after the game that he feels like he's built on stuff and he improved from the last game. That's what I saw as well. I saw a guy that was better and more confident and more calm and more ready to approach the job that is starting NFL quarterback in this game than I did in the game in New England against the Patriots. So that was good to see just from an overall standpoint. It needed to look better overall, and it did for CJ Stroud. And the one thing that I was really hoping to see was opportunities for CJ Stroud to go out there and get into a rhythm. Can he go out there, execute a drive that is more than just a handful of plays, more than just one first down? Can he put that together? And how does it look as he's putting it together? Does he get the defense helping him out with some of the penalties like we saw last week when he got the roughing the passer penalty to give him a bonus first down? Or does his offense go out there and beat guys and he finds the guys that are open and he makes the plays? And that's pretty much what we saw on that one drive that looked pretty solid from CJ Stroud. And the rest of it, we can dive into the intricacies and the details of it as well. But it was a thumbs up for me for CJ Stroud in accomplishing what he needed to accomplish. Now, nothing was perfect. It's far from perfect, in fact. And Stroud mentioned that himself in the postgame, that, hey, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like if I had done better, we probably are moving the football a lot more. We're scoring a lot more. He was critical of his execution of a couple of things. He was critical of sort of his game operation, though D'Amico Ryans did praise the game operation. We'll get into the details of that here in just a moment. But overall, a thumbs up, a step forward. It's not a leap forward. It's not a jump forward. It's a step forward for CJ Stroud. Now, I will say that first series, when they get the interception of Denzel Perryman to start things and Stroud and company run out there, I was really thinking that was going to be 7 points for the Houston Texans. I definitely thought in the situation that they were in, starting from the Miami 7-yard line, that they were going to punch that sucker in. And I would have been fine with 3 straight Dameon Pierce runs. And honestly, I believe that's probably what we were going to get, because you got a Dameon Pierce run, and then Andrew Beck's motioning back into the fullback spot. And as he's motioning into the fullback spot, he's given CJ Stroud one of these, the hurry up, let's go. Next thing you know, delay of game, 5-yard penalty, and then maybe it's a different play. They change the play. Stroud tries to get the ball to Andrew Beck. Pierce didn't quite get the block there on the blitzing player. And then they go for it on fourth down, and Stroud and Dalton Schultz don't hook up. There's a miscommunication there on that. That's one of the things that I'm sure CJ was talking about when he talks about his execution. How could he have done things differently? They would have been moving the ball, maybe even scoring that way. So that was the first drive. It was pretty disappointing. You would have liked to have seen points. You would have liked to have seen Stroud maybe punch that sucker in because somebody makes a run over the middle. In theory, he only got really one read and throw the ball opportunity because you ran the ball. You got to delay a game. Then there's a guy breathing down his neck immediately because it didn't look like Dameon Pierce got the block in time. So there's really only one read and make the play. And it looked like he made the correct read to Dalton Schultz, but he ultimately threw the ball like Schultz was going to continue the route. Schultz broke the route off. So that was not ideal. That was not a great series. That was not a horrible, no good, very bad series for Stroud. Overall, the offense, the play calling, you got to remember, Bobby Slowick's a rookie play caller. So I'm sure he's going to learn from that, and he can improve in his red zone and short red zone situations as well. The next drive is where CJ Stroud showcased some of the things that made him the number 2 overall pick. The way that he maneuvered with a little bit of pressure, he hit a pump fake and then got the ball to Dalton Schultz on 2nd and 13 was a really nice play. And that's a play that Davis Mills has panicked and taken a sack with in previous years. That's a play that a lot of quarterbacks don't make early on in their career. They're trying to do too much. They start panicking. But Stroud, there's a little bit of pressure. It's a messy pocket. He pump fakes, and then he gets the ball to Dalton Schultz and carves up a few yards and makes his third down a bit more manageable. It's still third and kind of long, 3rd and 7. And the next thing you know, whoop, 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 Robert Woods right there on the sideline, first down, Houston Texans. I really liked that throw. I thought back-to-back, those were the 2 best plays of the entire drive, and I really liked the rollout hitting Noah Brown on that drive as well. Ultimately, a couple of runs. He can't get the ball to Noah Brown on time. The defender's diving in there. I do think watching that back a couple times, maybe Stroud's a second late. I think I'd have to see a different angle and maybe have a little bit more understanding of exactly the play, but feels like he might have been a second late trying to get the ball to Noah Brown, but they settle for a field goal. And I've been kind of keeping track of all the rookie quarterbacks, and Bryce Young's got 1 field goal drive. Will Levis has a couple of scoring drives under his belt, but that was against 2nd and 3rd team, and he didn't even play this week. Anthony Richardson's got no scoring drives, and he didn't even play this week. And so CJ Stroud's got a scoring drive. And that's that. That's that amongst the rookies. And then the next drive looks to get the ball to Nico, tries to get the ball to Noah Brown, and that was a tough play for Noah Brown. I'm not going to be too harsh on him. He's sliding. It looked like maybe he could have caught it, but ultimately he doesn't catch the football, and they end up punting on that drive. And then the last time we see CJ is him kneeling down the ball right before half. Overall, solid performance. Overall, improvement from last week. And those are the 2 things that were really important and paramount about CJ Stroud in this game. Again, just CJ Stroud, because the totality of the game kind of sucked. Okay? The overall of this Texans game sucked. But just putting CJ Stroud in a box, in a bubble, it was an improvement. It's a thumbs up. It's a small step forward. And there will be baby steps at different times. Not every time is CJ Stroud going to make a big jump, a big leap, and drastically improve in a little over a week or a week's worth of work. Like, that's not going to be the case every time. So there's going to be weeks, and maybe even stretches of weeks, where there's going to be a little bit of baby steps. And this was a baby step. It was a small step forward, but ultimately it was a step forward for CJ Stroud in his quest to become a franchise quarterback, because he is not a franchise quarterback. He's got the opportunity to become a franchise quarterback, but he's not yet the franchise quarterback for this team. So Stroud's 2nd game in the books. What did you make of it? Let's talk about it. Let's get to some of your comments. Then we'll talk about the throwback night that the defense had. Yuck. Didn't like that. Chris Ness, Stroud looked pretty good today. I agree. Hey, Kenneth, glad to have you in for a live show. Appreciate you. STX Texan, how's it going? It's going great. How's it going for you? Sean, appreciate you jumping in. Touch of Trent, thank you. Oscar Oliveris, thank you. Hey, Cody, definite improvements with lots still to work on. One thing that I didn't like from CJ, and it was one of those game operation things, when he had the snap that kind of bounced up in his hands, that's not good. You can't have that. You got to be ready for that. I don't know if that's a Scruggs thing. I don't know if that's a Stroud thing. I don't know if it's a combination of both from a timing thing. And then the delay of game can't happen. I'm not dying for D'Amico to run down there on that very first play and call a timeout. Maybe I would have called a timeout if I was Ryan. So I'm kind of anti-timeout to save a delay of game. But that operation, that play, and then the snap that kind of got bounced up, those were not nice. I have not felt great about week one. I don't feel great about week one right now. Stroud looked more improved. That defense had me wanting to chug some cervezas. I got me some Pepsi Max and an unnamed whiskey in my cup right now. It could be your whiskey if you run the sponsorship for a whiskey brand, or any other spirit. It could be your spirit in my drink for postgame. Right now, it's an unnamed whiskey for my postgame drink. Yeah, the defense will drive you to drink. We'll talk about them here in just a second. I'm honestly worried D'Amico is going to start Mills with his lack of interest in making a decision so far. No chance. There's no chance Davis Mills is starting if C.J. Stroud is healthy. So put this out of your mind. C.J. Stroud has taken every first-team rep that this team has had for the better part of 2 weeks. So Davis Mills is not starting, okay? Davis Mills is not going to start. All right? Sean, kind of happy the team was so poor, really hammers home to the coaches and players what needs to change. Felt like an end of a honeymoon game. Yeah, the era of good vibes, they might have ended in the second preseason game. All right, couple more comments here. And if I don't get to your comment here, I will try to get to it when we get to the Q&A. Function. Lest we forget, we finally got to see the accuracy. Yes. I looked to Texans Cap, who was sitting next to me, and sitting between he and I was a scout for the Toronto Argonauts. And I looked over at Texans Cap, and I said, that's a throw. That throw that C.J. Stroud made to Robert Woods on the sideline and the one that he made to Noah Brown on the sideline. Those are two throws that have not been consistently hit, okay? Consistently hit since Matt Schaub was the quarterback at NRG Stadium. Hoyer wasn't doing it. Mallett wasn't doing it. Fitzpatrick wasn't doing it. Deshaun did not consistently hit that type of play, okay? Deshaun made some huge plays. I'm not going to try to take away from him. But that easy out where you put it right where the guy needs to get it, Deshaun wasn't hitting that on a regular basis. And obviously Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills weren't hitting that on a regular basis. So that Robert Woods play, the Noah Brown play, the consistency that he showcased between those throws, as well as the accuracy, that's why C.J. Stroud's here. That's why C.J. Stroud was the number 2 overall pick. That's why C.J. Stroud's the quarterback of the future for the Houston Texans. C.J. made some very nice throws, and Noah should have had that last ball he threw on the run. It's right in the chest as he went down. Tough play. I go back and forth. I watched it live, and I was like, yeah, I should have caught that. I watched the replay. I'm like, I don't know. I watched it again after the game. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. I got maybe the all 22, the end zone footage, give me a better idea. I bet you Noah Brown would tell you he should have caught it, and I bet you CJ would say he should have made a better throw. So no Tank Dell out there tonight, okay? No Tank Dell was warmed up, was ready to go, and then felt some tightness. Aaron Wilson saying it's a leg tightness, but I saw Tank Dell take off like it looked like a wrap on his midsection. So I saw him take off like a wrap in his midsection. I'm not 100% sure exactly what level of tightness we're talking about. D'Amico Ryans is not exactly the most clear about it, but no Tank Dell. He was going to play, and then ultimately he did not play. Okay. All right, couple of more. Do you think CJ knows the offense all the way? No, not all the way, but he's built on it. Okay, you can see it in practice, and you can see it in the just the game performance. But you can definitely see it in practice. Is that he has built on it, and that's the biggest thing. Is Bobby Slowick talked about they want to put a foundation in, and then from that foundation they can start putting all the different things in there. But he is built on that offense. And Lumineer with a good point. No TDs from the first round QBs yet. Yeah, that's true. That's true. AB, do you think he plays against New Orleans? I do not. I do not believe we'll see very many starters play against the New Orleans Saints. I don't know what D'Amico's end game is to this. I wonder if they want to make it sort of a week between week one and end of the season type thing. I don't know. I don't know what the reservation is about this. I'm here to tell you guys. I know D'Amico Ryans hadn't announced it. CJ Stroud's the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans, and CJ Stroud is going to run out there and play week one against the Baltimore Ravens. So I know there's no official announcement from the team. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Happy to see Stroud play a half. Hopefully he can be ready to roll week one versus Baltimore. I still think it's going to be rough. Baltimore probably beats us 34-21. Woo. I wouldn't sign up for 34-21, but I mean, 21 points on that Baltimore defense, depending on how you get it, that wouldn't be the worst showing ever by the offense. Okay. All right. Star a couple of questions here. We'll get to the next comment a little bit. Matt Burke was calling the defense today, at least from what I saw. He had the sheet. He was the only one touching his little button to make his microphone work. D'Amico wasn't touching his button, so Burke called the plays. Gunner, I don't know why people keep saying start Mills. We saw enough of that last season. He's not clutch at all. CJ will be our QB until he proves that he can't hang. Yeah, if CJ Stroud's not the quarterback, somebody else is taking the job. It's not going to be Davis Mills. He won't be here. He won't be here. All right. Yeah, they're not showing a ton of stuff either. Yeah, so that's another element too. Like Bobby Slowick's not in the bag of tricks yet, so he's not digging and diving into the bag of tricks just yet. So, I don't. I'm not super worried about the offense. Like there's a little here and there that I'm worried about, but I'm not super worried about the offense. Like I am super worried about the defense after today. Woo! Where were y'all on August 19th, 2022? Because that's what it felt like. It felt like it was 2022 with this rush defense. In the first half, the Dolphins had yards per carry over 7 yards per carry. They had 140 rushing yards in the first half, and that was without Jeff Wilson, who to me is their best running back. Raheem Mostert played. He averaged 5 yards a carry. And this guy that I have never heard of, except for knowing that he's like a depth piece in like super deep fantasy football leagues, goes off and has himself a day. I mean, what a performance by I don't even know how to say his name. Ahmed? I think that's how they were saying it. It's not pronounced like the way it's written. I don't know. But he had a huge day. I mean, gashing through the defensive line, gashing through the tackles, linebackers arm tackling people, safeties missing tackles, safeties having to make the play, corners having to make the play. My God, it looked like 2022. And that's not what this defense was supposed to be. That's not what this defense can survive on. And if they cannot stop the run, that significantly lowers the ceiling of what they can accomplish, and it knocks the floor out too. I mean, my God, it knocks the floor right out of this team. They could be a really, really bad football team if they can't stop the run. And what was the excuse? Malik Collins played. Will Anderson played. Sheldon Rankins played. Jacob Martin played. Perryman, To'o, Christian Harris, Petrie Ward. The starters played. There's no excuses for this. Now, D'Amico Ryans, Will Anderson, Sheldon Rankins, Denzel Perryman, all those guys said it wasn't good enough. And D'Amico Ryans was not pleased. D'Amico Ryans was not pleased and took a lot of blame for it. But, man, this was a very disappointing performance from this defense. One thing I did notice, too, if you go watch this series that Tua and the Dolphins offense went on that second drive that they had, the first drive was that interception right away, they did hockey change on the defensive line. So you had Martin and Anderson and Rankins and Collins, and then they hockey changed it. You had Hughes and Gernard and Lopez and Heinisch. And now that would have been a spot where you would have seen Hassan Ridgeway. Hassan Ridgeway's hurt. So they did the hockey change, got 4 new defensive linemen in there. Well, they kept taking care of business. Now, the first drive was first-team offense for Miami, and Tua makes some really good plays on third down. You're still trying to figure out as a defense who your dude is to just go out there and just make a play. Get you off the field, go out there, make a play. All right? So I'm not super upset about that second drive that the Dolphins had. It didn't look great, but that's the Dolphins' first-team offense, and they had to work for it. You're putting them in you're putting them in third downs. Tua had to go out there and make plays. It's after that really was the hard part to stomach. You know, the next drive, Skylar Thompson comes out there. Will Anderson's play happens. He destroys that running back, makes Thompson fumble. It's a huge loss. They just run the football and punt and basically give up on that series. If you block Will Anderson with a running back, if you block Will Anderson with a tight end, you get what you deserve. You get what you deserve, which is Will Anderson mauling that player and destroying your quarterback or your running back, okay? So if you block Will Anderson with a running back or a tight end or a wide receiver or any of that crap, Will Anderson's going to do what he did to that Dolphins running back and just blow him up and then blow your quarterback up, all right? He is a force. You have to block him with offensive linemen if you're one of these opposing teams. I hope they've learned that lesson. Actually, you know what? I hope they didn't learn that lesson. That'd be great for my Will Anderson Defensive Rookie of the Year ticket. But then the following drive, Skylar Thompson went out there and was able to navigate this game pretty well. I mean, he got a 13-yard completion on 4th and 2 against Tavier Thomas. That shouldn't happen. You should never have the backup running back rattling off runs of 11 and 8 yards on back-to-back plays to get, big chunk gains out of this defense. It was very disappointing. I don't know exactly how you go about fixing it. Blake Cashman didn't play. Blake Cashman's not solving everything, all right? He's not Brian Urlacher. He's not Ray Lewis. So it's very disappointing to see that. But you'd rather it happen here and not in Baltimore and not week 2 against the Colts and not week 3 against the Jaguars or week 4 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that's got to get cleaned up. It may be as simple as guys doing – it may be as simple as guys just doing their job better. Like, it didn't look like the linebackers or some of the defensive linemen were filling or setting properly. So it may just be as simple as guys not stop trying to do too much and take care of their business like they're supposed to. It may be that simple because they've got guys that can stop the run. Sheldon Rankins can stop the run. Like Will Anderson can stop the run. Same with Malik Collins and Hassan Ridgeway and Roy Lopez. Like, it shouldn't look like this. It shouldn't look like this. Okay? let's get to some of your comments here. Yeah, I don't know how to say the guy's name. I guess I better learn it, though, after he killed the Texans. Will looks like a beast. Yeah, he had some real nice plays. They double-teamed him on one play on a first down. So, they clearly knew they needed to slow down Will Anderson. And then, of course, they tried to block him with that running back and destroyed him. This is a good question. I do wonder if there is any element to Burke calling the defense versus DeMeco Ryans calling the defense. That's one of my big things about coaches. DeMeco Ryans is here, the head coach of the Houston Texans, because he called a badass defense in San Francisco. And I understand he has head coach duties. I understand he needs to pay attention to some things that are more than just calling the defense. But you got here because you were a badass defensive coordinator. You talked on the microphone to the linebacker who put the play in, and then your 11 guys beat up the other 11 guys. That's what got you here. So I don't know that it always makes a lot of sense to not have that guy do what got him here. So we'll see. AB brings up a good point. Dolphins O-line's not even very good. This is another great point. That's a bad offensive line. They didn't have Terron Armstead out there. He's hurt. They didn't have Terron Armstead out there. And then the backups came in there and started killing people. So it was rough. It was rough. Defense seemed conservative tonight, maybe trying to avoid any injuries. That's not, if that's not how you play football. You can't be worried about getting hurt. That's how you get hurt. You go out there and give it full bore. Sky Thompson was Mahomes 2.0 out there. And as Ayad puts out, he did get some starts last year. So this is not, some nobody. Skylar Thompson started a playoff game last year. Worried about our rush D against the Colts if Taylor plays with AR. Man, I don't know if that Jonathan Taylor situation is going to get figured out. We're about a month away. I don't know if that's going to get figured out. Yep. Felt a lot like 2022, man. Felt a lot like 2022, Willis. I wouldn't say no pass rush because Jacob Martin was in there on the Tua interception, and it looked like they had Thompson one time, and then he did what Stroud did and just kind of got above everything and threw the ball. But third down was rough, and rush defense was rough. And you could use a little bit more pass rush, certainly. Grenard had a nice pass rush moment. So it's not the worst pass rush. But look, there's room for improvement. Let's see how DeMeco does now. Let's see what kind of coach DeMeco Ryans, Matt Burke, and the rest of these defensive coaches are. You've got an opportunity to improve. You've got a lot of stuff here on film to go in there and improve. Let's see if you can coach it out of these guys. You're not going to get a true chance to see how well this clicks if they treat the third preseason game like I believe they're going to treat it, which is they're not going to play a ton of starters, if any. So the next time these guys are on the field in the game situations in Baltimore, Maryland in week 1, when you've got a usually very nasty rushing offense and Lamar Jackson to defend. So let's see how good of coaches we have here in Houston. That's the situation that you're in now. Edges weren't set. Linebackers were a step behind. More of an energy and effort thing, in my opinion. Yeah, Richard, you saw a couple of those things. Yeah, Devin weighs in with the super chat, guys. The super chats, certainly appreciate those. You go to the front of the line. We'll get to your comment or your question right away with a super chat. 15-play drive, 11-play drive, 13-play drive. Yeah, that was disgusting. That was disgusting. You can't have that. You can't have that. That second Tua drive was 14 and a touchdown. The other one was 15 and a touchdown. And then when it looked like they were trying to run the clock out, and the guy takes off for 65 yards down the sideline. And I was like, oh boy. Is Lovey out there? I didn't see the beard anywhere. Another small thing, really tiny thing. Felt like they were successful dumping the ball off to running backs. Remember how much that killed the Texans last year? Remember how much Lovey's defense couldn't stop running backs catching the ball? Yeah, AB, that's a good point. The Dolphins blew first down. It popped up in the air. Tua grabbed it. Everybody gives a mass of humanity. And then they marched 99 yards from second down. They marched 99 yards from second down all the way down the field. That's not, you just can't handle that. You can't have that. You just can't have that. One of the elements of the defense was one of my guys. I feel for him. He looked out of place a lot of times on some of these rushes, and Braxton Berrios ate his damn lunch in coverage. My guy, Henry To'o had a rough day. To'o had a rough day, and I've been sitting here on the YouTube. I've been sitting here on Houston Football, www.houfootball.com. Link in the description down below. Been telling y'all about how good Henry To'o is. And he had a nice preseason performance last week. It was fine. Wasn't anything amazing, but he showcased a little bit of the play recognition, was where he was supposed to be. And then Henry To'o goes out there. I got people chirping me like, oh, I thought this guy was good. Well, he had a bad day. He shouldn't be in coverage against a slot receiver for Mike McDaniel. To'o should not be defending Braxton Berrios out in the open field covering him. That should not be something that he ends up doing. Rick weighs in on To'o. Overran a lot of plays. Man, there was one play where he just flat out took on the wrong offensive player, it felt like. Like, he hit the hole, and then he looked, and the running back's running right past him, and I was like, did he miss it? What happened there? What's going on there? Like, that's my guy. I've been excited about Henry To'o, but again, preseason, opportunity to learn, opportunity to grow. To'o is one of those guys. And that one play sticks out to me because the setup I had was I could watch the play from the press box, and then I had an immediate, basically, TV copy of the play. And then the next TV right there was behind a few seconds, so I got an immediate replay. So I could go boom, 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 and then back to the first TV and see different angles and stuff like that. So that one play stuck out to me. I got to go back and find the exact moment, but it was just like, hey, you took on the wrong offensive player. So that was tough. Excuse me. All right, Q&A time. What do you got for this game? Get to a couple of different observations from the game while you guys have the questions firing in. And I'll get to some of these comments here that we had starred. Do you think the defense will improve noticeably when it's D'Amico calling plays and not Burke? It remains to be seen. I would put that in the TBD category because I'm not 100% certain D'Amico's going to call the plays. I'm not 100% certain that D'Amico's going to call the plays. Yeah, he did. He did. I don't think Kenyon Green looked bad. And that's a start for Kenyon Green, Don't look bad. Don't stand out for a couple of days, in a bad way. When's your best guess on when D'Amico announces Stroud officially? Week of game? Yeah. Week of game or that. So they play their final preseason game on a Sunday. They don't play the Ravens till 2 weeks from that Sunday. Okay? So the final preseason game is a week from tomorrow. Then you have Labor Day weekend. Then they play the Ravens. So I would think it's the week before Labor Day or after Labor Day where they officially announce it. Well, that's what that's what the joint practices are for. And I would tell you this: a lot of guys sit that long. That's just what happens. A lot of guys sit that long. So I'm not super worried about rust. You do want him to be in a rhythm by the time he gets there, but it's not like Lamar's got a game the week before or something like that. So Lamar, with a brand new offense as well, he's going to have sat a bunch of time too. So I'm not super worried about that. It's a good thought though, Devin. I appreciate you weighing in on that. Appreciate the super chat as well. You go to the front of the line there with the super chat if you would like to. So Slim, Titus Howard will play week 1. So this was a big development. Pre-game, got my binoculars out. I thought I had them right next to me, but got my binoculars out and I'm looking around and I see the big fellas getting ready. I was like, oh, there's Titus Howard. And I was looked on Twitter. Brooks Cabina's like, hey, Titus Howard's cast off. And I was like, look again. I'll be damned. His cast is off. Just had like a little bandage on the top of his hand, it looked like. And I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, in less than 2 weeks, it'd be 2 weeks Monday. Less than 2 weeks, Titus Howard had hand surgery, had one of those stabilizing like cages around his hand. Okay, that was like, it looks like, when people have like a neck injury, it's like they're drilling their skull and it kind of keeps their head straight. He had it looked like one of those on his hand. I never got close enough to see it, but he had one of those on his hand. Then he had a cast, and now he's out of the cast. And so maybe Titus Howard is Wolverine, and he just heals very fast. And if that's the case, then Titus Howard is going to be ready to rock week 1. And if he's ready to go week 1, that's a huge boost to this offense and what they're capable of doing. It'll be about 34 days from surgery to week 1's game, about 34 days. So that may have been enough time. That may have been enough time for Titus Howard, but I feel much better. I feel much better about Titus Howard's chances to play in week 1 than I did when he initially got hurt. Any guess on how many games Stroud plays till he gets hurt with this offensive line? I don't believe it to be that bad of an offensive line. So I'm not super worried about Stroud's health in that way. The offensive line, the first team offensive line, played pretty well tonight. The one thing that they did have an issue with is they didn't run the football very well. The rushing attack for this team stunk. Damian Pierce and Devin Singletary ran the ball 8 times for 21 yards. And Pierce got 7 of those yards on one play, and Singletary got 5 of those yards on one play. So when you take out those 12 yards from the 21, and you're sitting there and you get 6 rushes for 9 yards, 6 rushes for 9 yards when you're supposed to be a run-first team and you're supposed to be a team that counts on the rushing attack, that was something that concerned me a little bit. That's something that's got to get better. That's something that you've got to rely on in key moments and certainly help a young guy out when the game's speeding up and you need to just calm some things down, So the rushing attack has got to be better. Got to be better. Brian weighs in. The defense lacked energy. Not sure why since we were at home. We got to be better. Weekend practice means nothing. Show up for the game. Yeah, next time most of these guys play a game is Baltimore Ravens week 1. So got to be ready to rock. Got to be ready to rock on that. I love Pierce, but I don't think we have the speed for this scheme. Man, you got enough speed to make it work. It should have looked better than it did tonight. That's my big aspect of this rushing attack is it should have looked better than it did tonight. And it should have been a overall much better offensive performance if maybe you run the ball a little bit better. So that's something to pay attention to. I forget to do this. I'm throwing it in the comments. If you want to ask your question over video, you're watching at home, throw the webcam on, you want to ask your question, have a little back and forth, or just turn your microphone on to ask the question, throw the link there in the chat there for the folks. I'm not worried about the rushing attack yet, but this is not a dominant Miami Dolphins defense from a stop-the-rush standpoint. And so from that standpoint, you should have run the ball a little bit better tonight. Probably not as good. I feel like Miami's got a lot more juice to their defense. New Orleans is a far more experienced defense than Miami, but Miami's got more juice, and I feel like juice plays better. And it gives you a better top end when you got a little extra to you. Cody, what do you think CJ's chances are of winning Offensive Rookie of the Year? Stat prediction, you think 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions is possible. If he rattles that off, that'd be one of the best rookie years of all time. Most rookies have a pretty rough year. And especially rookies who are on teams that, yes, while this Texans team is better, it still lacks overall talent compared to some of these other situations and some of these other teams. But like Justin Herbert is a guy that set the rookie passing touchdown record, and it was 31. Right after that's Baker Mayfield with 27. So if CJ Stroud gets to 25, that's the 5th best number ever for a rookie. It's squeezed right between Peyton Manning in 98 and Daniel Jones in 2019. So, I mean, I'd put something a little bit closer to 19 to 21, but I would like for him to hopefully, with this offense, the improved offense, the investment in the offensive line, and some luck, I would like for him to score more touchdowns through the air than the combination of all the quarterbacks over the past couple of seasons. So you look at the 2022 Houston Texans, and you look at between Davis Mills, Kyle Allen, all the stuff that they had, there's 20 passing touchdowns. So can he get them past 20 passing touchdowns as a team? I sure hope so. Could you get into 21, 22 territory? I certainly hope so. That's I don't know that we're asking a ton, especially if you have a day where the defense just doesn't show up and another team's got the offense going, and then you gotta get in there and start slinging it. 21, 22 touchdowns, not out of the question. I feel like it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough to win Offensive Rookie of the Year with Bijan Robinson playing. And I just feel like that's going to be a tough guy to overcome. Some of these other wide receivers, maybe with an opportunity like a Zay Jones late in the first round if the Ravens throw the ball a lot more. O'Roy is going to be tough. Going to be tough. He rattles off 3,025 and 5, though. That'd be a great season. Great season for a rookie. I never saw Mighty Mouse mention. Maybe one each from Mechie and Hutch. Yeah, so Tank Dell didn't play. And, Mechie had a catch at one point. It was just a 5-yard catch. It just hasn't. That was with Mills in. Mechie didn't get in the rotation. It looked like very much when Stroud was in there. Mechie's below Noah Brown, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, and Tank Dell. So he's like 5'6". Him and Hutchinson are sort of 5'6" on the wide receiver chart. And then you got to factor in that Schultz is ahead of both those guys when it comes to pass catching. So really it's the 6th or 7th guy that you trust from a pass catching option. So Mechie and Hutch, unremarkable, but the offense, didn't look very good when Davis was in there. The offensive line, wasn't doing great. Mills had a completion here or there, but there were still some overthrows, stuff like that. So it wasn't awesome. It wasn't awesome. Devin, like I mentioned yesterday, I felt so much better with the O-line than what the Panthers had out there. We might get Howard, I think, CJ, and O-line be ready by week 1. And the Panthers were out there getting Bryce Young killed. Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau and some of those other guys just came flying in there. And, Bryce took some hits for the Panthers yesterday. He took some hits. CJ didn't get sacked this week. That's an improvement. Didn't run himself into a sack. Used the mobility in the short play with the Dalton Schultz dump, and then had the rollout for Noah Brown. So, saw some positives from CJ. AB says, my favorite CJ play today was actually that little pump fake pass to Dalton. Yeah, that was great. I like that a lot because it got messy, and I thought he was going to take off, and then I thought he was going to make like a kind of a risky decision, and he pumps, and then he gets it to Dalton Schultz. So that was a solid little play. Crowd was okay. Preseason game. I would expect a lot more people for week 2. And certainly week 4, when the Pittsburgh Steelers are in town, they're retiring, or they're putting JJ in the Ring of Honor. Yeah, man. The rushing attack, not good. Offensive line, that part of their gimmick was not good. Pass protected well, but they got to move some people out of the way. Give Dameon Pierce an opportunity to work. You saw Dameon Pierce, I think it was the 7-yard run. He did Dameon Pierce things where guys kind of bounced off of him and he rolled through the guys. But that offensive line's got to be better. Got to be better. D'Amico Ryans didn't seem too worried about Tank Dell. Didn't seem too worried about him. Didn't feel like it was a long absence. The Slowicks offense potentially worry you. No, it doesn't, but it's going to take time. Like it's going to take a while for these guys to mesh, get experience running it in the game, operate it in the game, and have success doing it in the game. Like, yeah, you dice up the Miami Dolphins in a red zone period in joint practices. That's great. Like, you still have to go execute it in the game with the play clock. And we saw it with CJ Stroud. The play clock expires on him when they're on the 1-yard line. Like, that shouldn't happen. Like, they still have to go out there and execute it. Bobby Slowicks, to me, the way the players have talked about him, it's excited me. They credit him with being a really good teacher. He's running an offense that is widely successful in the National Football League, so I'm not super worried about that. Is it going to take time to get put in? Yes. Is patience difficult to have when you've got Dameon Pierce and a billion-dollar offensive line? Exaggerating, but you get my point. Yes, there is patience, or it is difficult to have patience at that point. But I'm not overall worried like, oh my God, he's the wrong guy. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. All right. Do you think joint practices make it harder on game day since they know your weaknesses? Maybe a little bit. I do wonder if maybe the Dolphins saw a thing or two that helped them, go to a guy or trust the running game a little bit more. I would also tell you this. Mike McDaniel's a really good coach, and especially when it comes to offense. So when he starts to see something, like there was the clip of McDaniel last year. He's on the sideline. I think they had him mic'd up. And he was like, I'm going to screw around and call 11 running plays in a row. Or maybe it was passing plays. But he's like, I'm going to call 11 of the same type of play in a row. And he did, and he did, and he did, and he did. And the Dolphins moved the ball, and they moved the ball, and they moved the ball, and they moved the ball. It's important to note, too, like while we're all freaking out about this, that's the 6th best offense in the NFL from last year. Yes, they're missing a piece here or there, but that's the 6th best offense in the NFL last year. And they didn't have Tua for the entire season. Tua missed some games. So that's a good offense and an elite offensive mind that took care of you today. This isn't some slappy rolling in here beating you up. That was an elite offensive mind with a very good offense taking care of you. It still shouldn't have looked that bad. All right, so there's the yin and the yang, the two sides to the coin. It's a good offense. They're one of the best offenses in the NFL last year. It still shouldn't have looked like it looked. I think there's a yin and a yang to that. Rick says for Stroud, 2,500, 20 TDs, and 12 interceptions. Seems certainly more likely. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Nico Collins looks nice. Yeah, Nico Collins looked nice. So in one of the websites that we have, one of the websites that I have access to, you can break down the quarterback's play chart, all his passes, and it gives you the receiver and the target and what the result of the play was. So the first completion of the game was Nico Collins. The second completion of the game was Nico Collins. And then he went to Nico again on 2nd and 5 before he went to Noah Brown on 3rd and 5 later on. And Nico gets open. He looks good in camp. He did this last year, though. He looked good in the preseason last year. Week 1 and beyond is when it's important for Nico Collins. I believe that there's something there. I don't know what the top end of the talent, graph looks like for Nico Collins, but I do believe something is there. Laramie Tunsil's a brick wall, man. Laramie Tunsil's a brick wall. Rick says, Bryce won't survive the year. He got crushed in week 1 and week 2. Yeah. Everybody's darling offensive lineman from last year, Akeem Aquanu, just got whoop. Kayvon Thibodeau was on Bryce Young. And they got to keep him up right there in Carolina. Levis didn't play this week. Richardson didn't play this week. So maybe we give the stacking up rookie QBs versus each other a rest until we get some more data. But, Bryce was fine last night. Him and CJ Stroud have had the same amount of scoring drives, the same amount of points. Well, here's the thing, Ayad. The first year for the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence was Urban Meyer, and then they got a big-time coach, and it looked better. So I called really Doug Peterson's first year, that second year, that Jaguars elevation. And then with the Bengals, it was the second year of Burrow. So there's a little patience necessary here. I know patience isn't fun. There's a little patience necessary. Oh, good to hear from our guy AR Platinum. The new Texans scratch-offs just came out. That's all I have to comment on this team right now. AR Platinum does a great job here on YouTube. He's very entertaining. He's the scratch-off king. I'm sure he will scratch off some Texans scratch-offs on his channel. Check out AR Platinum's channel. It's my version of ASMR, ARSM, whatever it's called. Not BDSM. That's not me and AR Platinum, but I'll throw his channel on, listen to him scratch off those lotto tickets, and it's kind of soothing. He goes through and, he wins some money, and it's a fun time for all. Check out AR Platinum. Derek brings up a good point. Yeah, let's see what Slowick can do when he can game plan for somebody. Let's see what he can do when he can game plan for somebody. Tyson wants to know, when are the joint practices with the Saints? It's Thursday and Friday. And I'll be in attendance Thursday and Friday in New Orleans. It's actually in Metairie, which is right outside of New Orleans. I'll be in attendance at the joint practices. So the website will have the 11 observations and then some from the joint practices Thursday and Friday against the Saints. So I'll be there. Yeah. Look, there's going to be growing pains this year. There's a lot of new. rookie quarterback, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time head coach, first-time quarterback coach. There's a lot of new. Patience is going to be necessary, and it's not going to be fun, okay? There's going to be moments where there's going to be stretches of games where it doesn't look good, and out of 17 games, maybe you have 4 or 5 games where the team's just getting their head kicked in. The tough part is the past 2 years, we watched 17 games, 16 and 17 games of the team getting their head kicked in. So that's the tough part. Is like, if you could just lower the number, up the competitiveness, that'd be a positive step forward. Oh, by the way, win some more football games. You're going to need to win some more football games. Yeah, so Sean brings up a good point. You've got all this time before Baltimore to just hammer to the ones. Last time you were on the field, it wasn't good enough. Last time you were on the field, it wasn't good enough. Last time you were on the field, it wasn't good enough. So those guys ought to be chomping at the bit to show what they got in week 1 against the B-More Ravens. Thank you, Ayad. ASMR. Yeah. Well, check out AR Platinum's ASMR of scratching off tickets. I don't know that Steven Sims is pushing anybody for a roster spot, but I would like to see Steven Sims stick around as a practice squad guy. He may play well enough for someone to pick him up, but yeah, he's had a pretty nice preseason. Pretty nice. Julian, what are your predictions for the starting receiver? Seems like Tank may be getting more looks as wide receiver. So if they run 3 wide receivers out there week 1, I believe it'll be Woods, Collins, and Tank Dell, with Noah Brown rotating in however he needs to be used. So Tank in the slot, and then Nico and Robert Woods on the outside. Ooh, Canes is right across the street from the practice facility. Stoots, get you some Canes. Yeah, it's the OG Canes. So I've heard rumors. Maybe it's just rumors. I've heard rumors that Canes is better outside of Houston. Like the Canes restaurants outside of Houston are better, that the tenders are bigger, and that everything tastes a little bit better. Well, maybe we have to test that theory. Albert Robles. Stroud is that guy. We saw a little glimpse of his talent today. People forget what Stroud did against the Georgia Bulldogs defense. He rises to the occasion. I tell you what I really liked about Stroud is, even though a lot of the stuff wasn't totally his fault, he was at the podium and he's like, yeah, I didn't do this right. Yeah, I gotta do this better. I gotta look at this. Maybe if I'd done this, maybe if I'd done this, we'd had a drive extended, so on and so forth. Like, him in the film room with the coaches is where he's going to improve the most, is where we're going to see the leaps. And then his ability to go out there and execute it, which he showcased to a very tiny degree, his ability to consume information, process it, and execute it is going to be the most important thing about him. Okay? The most important thing. And so these next 2 joint practices, a lot of reps, get him a lot of opportunities. Don't believe he's going to play in the 3rd preseason game. So the next time he's out there in a game should be Baltimore. And that will be interesting. That will be very interesting. Yeah, Dalton Schultz might as well change his name to Whoopi. I mean, he's going to be the comfort zone for this offense. Like, he's just going to get into a area, be open. I don't know if there's going to be a ton of spectacular plays. You might see him streaking up the seam a little bit. He'll be a big red zone weapon. But safety blanket's a great way to put it. You think that we, for sure, after today's performance, have our fire quarterback? I mean, do I know for sure? No. Were there positives enough for me to think that things are continuing to go forward, whichever way forward needs to be on the camera? I think it's flipped. Like, are things still going up with Stroud? Yeah. Do I know if he's the franchise quarterback? Not enough information to compute yet. You know, he hadn't missed the opportunity to look the part. Like, it's not like he's been totally incompetent out there. I don't believe benching him in the regular season is useful to anybody. I don't believe benching him in the regular season is useful to anybody. Tank had some tightness in the warm-ups, so he was out. It was going to play, but he was out. I think they're gonna play around with some of the in-stadium stuff and some of the looks, and maybe just get the big revamp next year when they got the uniforms. No update yet on Roy Lopez. We'll know more about with the practice on Monday. Yeah, no stumble on the play action. No stumble on the play action. That was a benefit. He did have the snap pop up. I don't know if that was him or Scruggs, but he did have the snap kind of fly out of his hand there. So, that one's one you got to clean up. All right, we're going to finish up with this one from David here. David Ortiz. Where do you see the team leading into strength-wise? More of an offensive or defensive team? We have some decent weapons, but the puzzle pieces aren't coming together. I believe this is a team that will surprise people on defense more often than not, and will put the offense in position to succeed. And the offense will have just enough most weeks. When they win, they're not going to blow people out. They're going to have enough. And there may be some, hold on to the table moments. Hold on to your butts. The defense has got to get a stop while the Texans have a lead. There may be some of those. They're not going to blow people out. When they win football games, they're going to win football games, in less than 10 points. So there's not going to – they don't have, to me, the type of team that's going to just really blow somebody out, win it. Maybe they're winning by 10 and Dameon Pierce breaks a big one. They win by 17, stuff like that. But they're going to have to run the football a lot better. They're going to have to play defense a lot better because that's what I believe they want to do. And that's like in a perfect world, they're doing that really well. All right, I lied. We got a couple more. When's cut down day? Anyone who didn't help themselves. Jake Hansen didn't help himself. Cut down day is the 29th. Yes, the 29th of August. Had to look at my little calendar there. And Jake Hansen was rough. Rick, I saw your emails. I'll take a look. Julian, in a perfect world, Quintiriano progresses immensely. We don't have to pay extend Schultz, but I'm thinking like a Madden GM. I can't tell you one thing Tegan Quintiriano's done since he got healthy. I can't tell you one thing that he's done. I mean, you got to see more out of Tegan Quintiriano. All right, I'll finish with a funny story. I like CJ's honesty at the podium, unlike Mills last season, who believed he did amazing every game after being horrible. I don't know that I'd characterize it that way for Davis Mills, but CJ is very open about, some mistakes he made, and he's a fun podium. And when he was done, an unnamed media member said, God, he is way better than Davis Mills. And it got a good chuckle out of most of the media members in there. He's talking about from a podium standpoint. So that was funny. All right, little housekeeping as we wrap up. Be looking in the description and the live videos in the future for the before the season starts get together. We'll be putting that together before the season starts. We'll get a new raffle going after the final preseason game. So be on the lookout for that as well. Check out Houston football. Greatly appreciate that. www.houfootball.com. The link is in the description below. Paid subscribers get access to everything for paid subscribers. So you get all the observations, including the joint practice observations. You get the post-game observations. You get articles throughout the week. And there's going to be free stuff on the site. There's always free stuff on the site. So if you don't want to pay, I understand that. But I will make your $7 worth it. I promise you. I will make your $7 worth it. All right? Starts at $7. You get a discount if you sign up for a year. All right, links in the description below. All right, would love a thumbs up on the video, a subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel before or by now. And that will do it for the postgame. Texans lose. CJ Stroud improves. Defense looks like 2022's. And made us all want to booze. I'm a poet. I didn't even know it. Gave you a rhyme. Didn't even cost you a dime. All right, I'll stop. All right, you guys know how we finish this sucker up. Devin, appreciate you weighing in. Gunner, appreciate you weighing in. Finish up the live streams same way every time. It's my hope for you. It's my charge for you as well until we talk again. It is eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon.